button, listening to the ambient noise. It kind of sounds like one of those things he listens to, like it's like a 4-hour long YouTube video while you fall asleep. Just like a little light rain.
No, that's them. They're walking up, y'all. They're walking up. That's him. Yeah.
My grass heels. So as you see them getting set up,
we're about to start here in just a second.
TV Plus.
Okay, good. Well, first of all, thank you all for being here. My name is Robert Garcia. I am the ranking member, the lead Democrat on the Oversight Committee, and I'm here with many of our colleagues from the Oversight Committee. We're all going to make some brief remarks. I'll introduce them all, and then I'll open it up for a couple questions. And then our deposition is continuing, so we've got to continue that throughout the day. So let me just first of all give a couple overview. So we are right now in the middle of a deposition of Mr. Les Wexner. We are doing the deposition at his estate here. Right now, we are now about 2 hours into that deposition. We are on a break, and we will be going back into the deposition for the rest of the afternoon. So to be very clear, we'll be providing an update now, but there are many, many questions that we have to ask of Mr. Wexner that are important to our investigation. And so that questioning will happen throughout the day as this day moves forward. We're here because we want to talk to anyone that has information about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's crime, abuse, and trafficking of women and girls. There is no single person that was more involved in providing Jeffrey Epstein with the financial support to commit his crimes than Les Wexner. That is already, as we all know, in the public record. We've also directly heard from survivors about Mr. Wexner, about his involvement, and their concerns as to the enormous amount of money that was essentially transferred over and paid to by Mr. Epstein. To be very clear, we know of approximately over $1 billion, it looks like. It's about $1 billion that was either transferred, provided in stocks, or given directly to Mr. Epstein by Wexner. Now, it's important to note that Mr. Wexner appears to be unaware of much of the money, as he claims, that was given over to Mr. Epstein. In fact, it's interesting that Mr. Wexner has already begun to clarify in his mind that somehow he and Mr. Epstein weren't even friends. We should be very clear that the two were very close, per reporting. They spent a lot of time together. Mr. Wexner admitted that he traveled to both Epstein's island as well as his other properties. Mr. Wexner also admitted that Jeffrey Epstein had access to a lot of Mr. Wexner's wealth. And when asked even simple questions, even as it relates to Mr. Epstein being the co-president of the foundation that established the area that we're in today, Mr. Wexner had little to say. In fact, it's clear that Mr. Wexner is trying to downplay how close Jeffrey Epstein and Mr. Wexner actually were. And we should be very clear that there would be no Epstein Island, there would be no Epstein plane, there would be no money to traffic women and girls. Mr. Epstein would not be the wealthy man he was without the support of Les Wexner. I think it's very important for us to note at this moment. There's a significant amount of questioning that has gone on, but I want to say one other thing and then I'm going to turn it over. We are committed to ending this cover-up. Right now, as we speak, over 50% of the Epstein files have not been released to the public and to the Congress. Donald Trump and Pam Bondi are leading a White House cover-up to protect billionaire, wealthy benefactors, whether it's Mr. Wexner or whether it's anybody else. And that has to end now, which is why we're here and why we're willing to go anywhere and to speak to anyone with information about Jeffrey Epstein's horrific crimes. And so we have a lot of questions for Mr. Wexner, and we look forward to sharing those with all of you as well today. So with that, let me turn this over to Congressman Steve Lynch.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for your leadership. It's important to remember that all the evidence, the documentary evidence that we've received so far, much of it points to this witness and Les Wexner's involvement. As Robert has laid out, the financial wherewithal for Epstein to operate in New York City, to operate in Florida, the Virgin Islands, the ability to travel, and in some cases his own credibility. There was a period there where Epstein was saying that he was closely involved with Wexner's operation, several of his Victoria's Secret, that he was involved in that process as well. So in a very real way, Les Wexner gave Epstein credibility and gave him the ability to commit some of the crimes that he did. One of the witnesses, one of the victims, the survivors, has already indicated that she was assaulted at this facility, at the mansion here, Wexner's home here, that she was refused permission to leave that house until security had cleared that she was kept there for several hours. So In an investigation, you usually follow the documents and you follow the money. And much of that evidence and all of that money leads us to this location. So far, and I'm just speaking generally, the more this deposition goes on, the less Les Wexner knows about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. There was a deep trust between these two men. There was a deep friendship there. Not only in a business sense, but Les Wexner gave Epstein the ability to handle his children's and his family's money. So at least that part of it makes it hard to believe Les Wexner's testimony thus far. It may be a question as to whether Les Wexner was involved in the crimes directly, but there is no question in my mind, given the evidence so far, that Les Wexner knew about this and failed to stop it and gave Epstein license and the ability to commit these crimes. And I'll yield.
We've done something that the Department of Justice has failed to do. We have actually sat down and listened.
So you are watching right now a live press conference happening in New Albany, Ohio. These are House Democrat lawmakers who just took part in the deposition of Les Wexner at his home here in New Albany. They came out
to do their job, which is to investigate. So here we are as the legislative branch doing our jobs and trying to do oversight. Let me tell you, the survivors have said over and over and over, follow the money. That was the one thing that they told us, as well as their attorneys. Follow the money. Well, we're following the money. But I'm going to be perfectly honest with you and tell you that we are running into dead ends at this moment. On yesterday, I was asked about this particular deposition and what I anticipated I would hear. As a trained attorney and litigator, once they told me he wasn't taking the fifth, I thought that the record would be full of I don't remembers. I will tell you that once this record comes out, you will see that you most likely will be left with more questions.
to finance them through money, through stocks. He goes on to say that they were very close, but during this deposition this morning, Congressman Garcia infers that it appears that Les Wexner was trying to, quote, downplay how close they were, and that he said that they are committed to ending this cover-up. We heard from another congressman, Steve Lynch, who said that whether or not Wexner financed the crimes, he believes that he knew about them and failed to stop them. Now, we should note that Les Wexner has long maintained that he knew nothing of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, and he has not been charged with anything related to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. He did also submit a 3-page letter earlier this morning to the House Oversight Committee saying that he was, quote, pleased to testify today because this is an opportunity to, quote, set the record straight. And again, he goes on to say that he had no knowledge of any of Epstein's crimes. He goes on to, in this 2,000 worded letter, saying that he called himself naive and foolish and gullible to put any trust in Jeffrey Epstein. Wexner also calling Epstein a con man and saying that he has done nothing wrong and he has nothing to hide. More of this letter from Wexner to the House Oversight Committee today, saying that he never witnessed, had any knowledge of any of the crimes related to any of Epstein's crimes that that Epstein participated in, also saying that he was, quote, duped by a world-class con man. So in this letter as well, that Wexner acknowledged that the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, but said that he never saw or heard about Epstein being in the company of underage girls, saying that he only visited Epstein's island only once for just a few hours shortly after Epstein bought it, saying that he was there with his wife, Abigail, and their young children. He also said that the side of Epstein that he saw was, quote, far different from the predator he eventually was exposed to be. So these are Wexner's words today to the House Oversight Committee, basically distancing himself from a really close relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. However, it is clear from what we just heard from some of the House Democrats that they do not believe that they were not that close, given the amount of money that was transferred between the two related to Epstein being Wexner's finance money manager. We are going to continue this story throughout the day here on 10 TV Plus, also on 10 TV. But again, we are live in New Albany. This is basically the
We
town
in America
that Les
deserve
Wexner
better.
built, and certainly the big talk of today.
CEOs that are having to leave their own companies. We're seeing people that are having to leave their board positions. We're seeing princes being dethroned. We're seeing all kinds of stuff everywhere except for right here at the highest levels of federal government. Whether we're talking about Donald Trump himself or whether we're talking about Secretary Lutnick, and the list goes on. We deserve better in this country, and we will get it.
Good morning. Over the course of the last year, the American public has been witnessing what I can only call the most egregious cover-up in American history. And today was a critical part of our investigation to try to end this cover-up once and for all. We have met with the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and the rich and powerful people that helped to perpetuate these crimes. And we have heard over and over from these victims the name of Les Wexner and the importance of following the money. Because the story of Jeffrey Epstein is one that can almost, almost is the plot of a movie that is turned into a nightmare. And the real reason Jeffrey Epstein was able to get away with raping and abusing children, young women, boys, young men for so many years was because of the vast amounts of money that he was able to acquire, and that largely came from Les Wexner here in Ohio. So we're here to ask Les Wexner the critical questions, and it's been very interesting to see the types of responses that he's giving and his demeanor throughout the interview. He claims to want to provide information and to be helpful in the investigation, but then quickly follows up by saying that he does not recall details around a relationship with somebody that he had for decades. Les Wexner handed his power of attorney to Jeffrey Epstein. He allowed Jeffrey Epstein to live in his homes, to have hundreds of millions of his dollars, to use his yachts and his planes. This was obviously a very, very close relationship, and so far what we have seen is a denial of that relationship. Another important theme that has come up today is that Les Wexner is actually tied to other sex trafficking and child abuse scandals here in Ohio, around the country. There are reports of payments that were made to a gynecologist at Ohio State University, and that money went through Jeffrey Epstein but came from Les Wexner. And he has been asked about this with no real response, no recollection. And again, as my colleagues have said, I don't think it is feasible or understandable or conceivable that any individual would not have an understanding of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars of their own money and can't answer to those questions. So it is clear that this cover-up is vast. It goes as high as the White House and the Department of Justice that still has not released the majority of the Epstein files, still has illegally redacted information, still has not begun any indictments or prosecutions for the very credible allegations that are in the files that we already have seen, all the way to people at universities, in companies, and vast networks of elite individuals across this country. And what I can tell you very clearly is that oversight Democrats on this committee will not back down until we get every detail, until every person who enabled and perpetrated these crimes is held accountable. Thank you.
Hi everyone, Dave Menn, freshman member of Congress out of Orange County, California, and before getting into office, I was a law professor. I'm a graduate of Harvard Law School, and earlier in my career, I was an SEC enforcement attorney, so I've done quite a few of these types of depositions and witness interviews. And while I don't want to comment on an ongoing deposition, we're going to go back in there and ask more questions. I can basically say that he has basically alleged that he saw no evil, heard no evil, despite being in the room with Jeffrey Epstein over and over and over. And it's really just not credible. I realize he's an elderly gentleman, memories fade, but the reputation of Jeffrey Epstein is very clear. Everyone around Jeffrey Epstein knew exactly what he's up to. And to spend that much time, to give that much trust to Jeffrey Epstein, and then to say, I don't remember seeing any young girls, I didn't hear anything about Jeffrey Epstein, it really is just not plausible. And so we're going to keep digging, but I want to just echo the comments earlier. This is a bit frustrating because we're not getting real answers to the questions that the American people deserve answers to. I also just want to give kudos to my colleagues behind me right here. Robert Garcia and the Democrats on the Oversight Committee have led the effort to try to expose this cover-up. What we've seen is foot dragging. We've seen, if you remember back to Pam Bondi saying that this was all a hoax and a cover-up, that there were no Epstein files. Due to the efforts of Ranking Member Garcia, we have been able to pierce that myth. We're getting more answers, but we've got a lot of work to do. And we'll just add, it is very frustrating the fact that there are no Republicans here today. I wish there were Republicans because sex trafficking should not be a D versus R issue. It should be a bipartisan issue. Everybody should be invested in finding the truth right now. And the fact that we've had so little cooperation from the Republicans on the House Oversight Committee, that the DOJ has actively tried to obstruct this investigation, that is shameful, and it will go down as a permanent mark on the records of people like Pam Bondi and Donald Trump. Now, I'll just close with this. When I got off the plane, I saw Wexner's name all over the place. His name is on buildings, it's on medical centers, and you immediately realize when you come to Columbus what a powerful individual this is. But I just want to say that no matter how rich or powerful you are, America stands for the principle that there's one rule of law that applies to anybody and everybody equally. And so whether Wexner is rich and powerful, whether Jeffrey Epstein or Donald Trump or Howard Lutnick are rich and powerful, should not matter. We're going to get the answers. People will be brought to justice. We will not rest until that happens. Thanks.
Thank you. And before I answer a couple questions, let me add two things that are really important. One is, it's been clear to us, at least the way Mr. Wexner has presented this, that he, according to him, has not been was questioned by the FBI or the DOJ about Mr. Epstein. How outrageous is that? He's someone that's been named by survivors, someone that's in the files more than most people, someone that's clearly the financial benefactor to Jeffrey Epstein and has not been contacted or interviewed by the FBI or the DOJ? Yeah. What the hell is going on? That is shameful. We should be ashamed as a government. The survivors deserve justice. And so that's something that we are going to continue to press today, and certainly press with Pam Bondi and the DOJ. And the second thing, something that I think is critical to all of us, I think this community should also be asking questions. This community deserves to know why the most powerful man and one of the richest men, if not the richest man in Ohio, gave so much of his wealth to the largest modern sex trafficking ring in American history. Why his money was used to traffic, abuse, and rape women and children. And so I think this community has questions of Mr. Wexner. Ohio State should have questions of Mr. Wexner. And Mr. Wexner's involvement in our questions, today's not the end of our questions for Mr. Wexner, it's the beginning of our questions for Mr. Wexner and anyone in this community across Ohio or the country that has done business dealings or that knows why he provided so much money for Jeffrey Epstein to then go on and commit all these horrible crimes. We can answer a couple questions.
How often is he taking? Thank you, Congressman Garcia. Thank you guys for doing this. A couple questions. First off, you mentioned, and in Les Wexner's opening statement, he said that he did not have any knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. Do you believe he's lying, given what you know about him and the evidence to support over? That's first. Second, in a 2019 affidavit, Maria Farmer
said that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell had sexually abused her at the Wexner estate, and that the Wexner security guards wouldn't let her leave. Did you guys touch on that incident at all during the deposition? And third, what comes next in your investigation?
So let me start by saying that I do not believe when Mr. Wexner says that he did not have a personal relationship or a friendly relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I think that is bogus, personally. I think I can also say that we believe the survivors. And I think the farmer testimony is critical. And what happened to not just Maria, but to Annie and the farmer women was horrific. And this idea that she gave such a description of what happened to her, and somehow we should just dismiss that as a lie or untrue, I think is outrageous. There's no question in my mind that there was a relationship and that Mr. Wexner is very aware and likely aware of what was going on.
Representative Garcia.
There have been questions that have been asked about the farmer incident, and that will continue in the afternoon. Yes.
Tom Bosco with the ABC affiliate here in Columbus. Can you give us a little more of the flavor of the questioning? Is he combative with the questions? Is there a lot of conferring with attorneys before he answers? And you said he has not pleaded the Fifth or taken the Fifth Amendment?
He's not pleaded the Fifth. I think that he's answering some questions. He's saying that he doesn't remember, and other questions.
See no evil, hear no evil.
Exactly. He's claiming that there's basically was no friendship with Jeffrey Epstein or no real strong relationship, which we know by reporting that's just not true. It's pretty ridiculous.
As it relates to the lawyers specifically, there's a lot of objections.
A lot of objections. Any other questions? Yes.
Les Wexner, he admitted to visiting Epstein Island. And what do you know? What has he shared about his activities while on the island and any involvement in survival
go ahead, yes.
here at his mansion also?
Yeah, I asked that question today. He claimed that he was on the island for 1 hour and that he walked around with his family. And I asked him if any other individuals were there, and he said no. And that was a kind of a repetitive thing that he said as well when we asked about if he had been to another property. He said, I was there for 1 hour, and I go to many places for just 1 hour.
And did he speak about any involvement with survivors, even here at his mansion at all?
No.
He denied everything.
Not everything. And quite frankly, it would have been nice to have seen more remorse. Yes.
Mr. Wexner is 88 years old. He's also been missing Wexner Medical Center board meetings where he's chairing. Can you describe his demeanor, how he is? He's an elderly gentleman. Pretty sharp.
Do you want to add that? It's pretty sharp.
Well, I think he's lucid. I think he's certainly capable of answering these questions. There's no deterioration in his mental faculties. So he's a competent witness. He's just not telling the truth.
Will this why here in Ohio versus here in D.C.?
Deposition locations are decided by the majority party, and that was decided to have it here.
Will this deposition even matter if Pam Bondi and the DOJ are not taking this as a main focus?
Look, I think that we have, my first answer is yes. This deposition absolutely does matter, and it's important to get. Remember, Mr. Wexner is under oath to tell the truth. So every single answer that he gives is a broader part of our investigation. This is just the beginning of our work with and trying to get the truth on Mr. Wexner, and so that it absolutely matters. Any final questions?
What happens when the DOJ doesn't do anything with it?
Well, that's up to the President Trump, which we're putting the pressure on. Yes.
Representative, you mentioned there's a credibility issue. How is that going to impact the investigation if you don't believe he's telling the truth?
Anybody want to answer that? What's that? Credibility issue. Look, I think at the end of the day, we need to ask the questions and get Mr. Wexner on the record. That's the most important part right now. Is we have questions that are going to continue throughout the afternoon and get him on the record. We have time for a couple more questions. We've got to wrap up.
If you feel you're not getting the answers
Go ahead,
you need
Jasmine.
today, what should we expect next from you guys?
Jasmine.
Well, I'm going to let you do that one. I was going to do the other one.
Yeah, I think what's next is we may have additional questions. We have more people to speak to, folks that are involved with Mr. Wexner and that have done business with him, including the doctor that we just discussed earlier that got transferred a significant amount of money. They can expect questions from us.
Will you ask for the finance records that was mentioned?
Absolutely, we're asking for those. Jasmine, do you want to answer the other part of the question?
All right.
Let me let Jasmine. Go ahead, Jasmine.
Representative Garcia, when you said there are no Republicans here, you didn't just mean at this press conference. There are no Republicans.
No, there are no Republican members of Congress.
At this deposition?
Yes.
No.
Right. There are Republican staff members. No Republican members of Congress chose to come. We'll take one final question.
Wexner was named as a possible co-conspirator in a lot of the documents. Anything you've seen today makes you think he might not be or could be?
There's nothing I've heard that no. I think that is a very open question, and I think that's a part of the investigation that's going to continue. Thanks, everybody.
All right, you've been listening to a news conference there from Democrats on the House Oversight Committee following their deposition of Les Wexner. They're on a lunch break now. They're getting ready to continue that throughout the afternoon. And you heard a snippet there at the end saying that there are no Republican Congress members taking part in this deposition today. There are only Republican staff members of these Congress members there today. Now, we did hear a lot of allegations from these Congress members today about this. We heard Yasmin Ansari, the Congresswoman from Arizona, calling this the most egregious cover-up in American history. And one thing we heard from Democrat Steve Lynch of Massachusetts saying that there is no question that Les Wexner knew about this and failed to stop it, saying this would not be possible without money from Les Wexner. Now, this is all things that Les Wexner has denied throughout the years, and even denied in a statement he sent out just before the deposition got underway. It was about a 2,000-word statement covering about 3 pages. It was submitted to the House Oversight Committee. We did get a copy of that today, in which he said he wanted to set the record straight, denying many of these allegations made against him. He has maintained for years he has had no knowledge of any of Epstein's crimes. In this statement, Wexner calls himself naive, foolish, and gullible to put any trust in Jeffrey Epstein, calling him a con man and saying he has done nothing wrong and has nothing to hide. He went on to say he has never witnessed or had any knowledge of or participated in Epstein's criminal activity, saying he was, quote, duped by a world-class con man. We are, of course, continuing to follow this throughout the day. For more coverage, along with a copy of that letter, you can stay with us on 10 TV Plus. You can follow us online at 10tv.com and download the 10 TV News app to your phone. We'll send news updates right to your phone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon on 10 TV Plus.